Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka.
It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Baka. Normally, we're a podcast that talks about an anime like a book club, and we're doing a normal episode, so I have no reason to emphasize that it's normally. Should I start over? Nope, we're going to keep going. We're a podcast that does anime reviews. We handle it in a book
And
club
therapy.
format, and there will be some therapy.
Sometimes.
Yeah, whenever we get into these romantic comedies, we tend to reveal how messed up we were. And
There's no actual qualified therapeutic advice given on the part of any members here to each other, but
Look,
we certainly enjoy it.
full disclosure, we're recording this a night earlier than usual, and I'm totally off my game. This is already off the rails so bad. I'm going to introduce my co-host. First up, we have the blushing to my cheeks, who will now tell you about an anime that he enjoys or doesn't to let you know his taste. It's Jeremy.
Yeah, hi. So Kaguya-sama Love is War, which I think has a lot of similarities with this one. And Jason didn't like.
Did you pick that just for the trigger warning?
Yes, I did.
Don't feed the trolls, Jason. Speaking of trolls, he's the notebook to my lap. It's Jason. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Wow. It's a day early and an anime short. But I know I've probably said this before. I'm going to say it again because of the new abridged that's come out. Dragon Ball Z just is on my mind. And I think I need to get back into the last season because I didn't actually finish it out.
Super?
Mm-hmm.
You're like 3 seasons behind, my dude.
Well, last season's, I should say.
So have you watched any of Super?
I saw the movie and I saw the first couple episodes.
All right, and the movie is like the first season, right?
Okay, yeah, I finished the first season then. That's right.
Okay. Then it gets into a lot of filler, and then we get Future Trunks back, but his hair is different. And for me, I'm
He
always
must have leveled up.
No, they didn't explain it. His hair is
Really?
Bulma. It's like Bulma blue now instead of purple, but it's the same trunks that help them. It doesn't make.
Is it like
sense.
cold
But
water?
he's
hot
from
water?
he's from the bad future though. Anyways.
Yeah, it's very good. It gets that bad guy's cool. Oh, fun fact about that bad guy. So, he is voiced by James Marster, who was Spike on Buffy. But he didn't give his real name, and he did the voice acting for free because he also played Piccolo in the Dragon Ball Evolution movie and wanted to give something back to the Dragon Ball community as an apology.
He didn't
That's
do a good
awesome.
job?
As Piccolo, he probably was fine as Piccolo, but he just felt so bad about the movie that he did the voice acting, and the voice acting was, and everyone says his voice acting is great in that season.
Oh, crud. You're right. I forgot Evolution was the live action.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, the abridged has the Vegeta sacrifice, and that always stirs a raw soul in me. So probably my favorite scene out of all of Dragon Ball that I've seen. So.
I still love the tournament of power.
It's good.
That last thing of Super Frieza on the good guys team, and you trust him. That was such a cool dynamic. All right, my name is Troy. I picked Bigata HK. I think I've picked that before. It's just a really, I don't think it's super wide known, so I like to pull it up as like the romantic comedy of choice. There's a few I like Toradora and others, but Bigata HK about a girl who is on her path to have sex with 100 guys, and if she could just get past this first one, and then ends up falling in love with him, and not able to actually do the thing because she's built it way up to in her head. It's a hilarious look at how high schoolers and their weird relationship with sex, while also being a nice romantic comedy. I like it. All right.
You are not selling this well.
It, it's you read the description, you're like, this is dirty, adult-oriented content, and they're clearly it's much more wholesome than it pretends to be. Much like Dangers in My Heart, which we need to talk about. Look at the segue. Even on a Friday night, I still got it.
Boom.
All right. So we did watch Dangers in My Heart, and so we're going to give our non-spoiler reviews. Jason, this was your pick. Why don't you tell us first what you thought of it?
I'd seen a couple clips of this and thought it looked fairly funny. I'd seen a lot of commercials for it, so I wanted to try it out. And then I just experienced a ton of existential dread and anxiety the entire time. But seriously though, I've got mixed feelings. It's definitely a fairly, in my opinion, fairly realistic story of like that first discovery of like, the birds and the bees. And some scenes were really hard to watch, and some scenes were really heartwarming, and then some scenes were really funny. So it's a mixed bag, honestly. I don't know what I'm saying. Jeremy, what'd you think of it?
I was kind of bored through a lot of it. Just in general, to me, it felt like we were getting a lot of the just such a focus on the romantic aspect of it. And I know it's a romance, so of course it's going to be a focus on the romantic aspect. But I would have liked to have seen some of the more laid back scenes of interactions that also come with relationships, be they friendships or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. And I didn't think we got enough of those. And so the relationship, to me, like everything that we were presented with, was so sappy and so like it was so focused on those first steps and the uncertainty of it that to me it just kind of got old. And yeah, well, I do agree that it's realistic in the sense of, the kids are going to experience that. It didn't feel like a complete story. And I would have liked to have seen more. I also was kind of sad that, there were a couple of characters that were in the background that I would have liked to have seen more of. They were funny, but they really didn't get any spotlight. Everything was just on these two main characters. And I have a few other complaints as well. So it's not real high in my book.
Fair enough. I went in not expecting a lot. I do tend to like romances, but they're also really young. I was telling these guys earlier, Love is Hard for Otaku is probably one of my favorites because then you're watching adults go through dating aspects of, okay, what are our differences, what are our similarities, and actually going through that dating process. And that felt like a very mature take, and I really like that romantic comedy. And then Dress Up Darling, okay, now we're in high school, but it's still very realistic of we're in high school, we have all these emotions and feelings, and we want to express them. Are we ready for that? Are we not ready for that? And it was done a very good job of portraying that. Now we're down to 13-year-olds in middle school, and it's like, oh, that's not going to be easy for that to last super long.
Mm-hmm.
But with that said, I found it very earnest in its portrayal, and I was jamming with it. I liked it, and I felt when they say it's realistic, I felt like it was copying stories from my real life that I'll probably overshare during the podcast. Watch out for that. Literally things that he was going through. I remember. Wow, I did that. I was 16, but I was like, yeah, that's exactly how that feels. That's exactly the stupid things you do. So it was also a bittersweet memory of falling in love with that first girlfriend, and wow, I was an idiot. You're such an idiot when you start. So, but I recommend it if you like romantic comedies, that this is your thing, and you don't mind that they're 13 years old. It is very sweet. It's very sweet. Like, you're gonna get diabetes from this thing. Sweet.
Yeah, and we might also mention it's not really a spoiler. Don't worry about the description. Anything awkward or scary sounding in the description really does not apply to this show.
Which I was turned off from it because of the description of like he's a dark murderer who's in love with a sweet girl, and I'm like, that's gonna be weird. I don't like that, and it's not there.
Well, I mean,
for
it
5
could have
seconds.
had potential. Like, I think that could have been interesting if done right, but it's not there.
What if at the end he just murders her? Like twist ending. He goes through with it. Okay.
All right, JJ. Jeez.
All right. What did you guys think of the opening and closing?
They're okay.
Cotton candy.
Yeah, just kind of super sweet. I watched them both once, but I had no desire to watch them after that. The song was okay.
I like the OP. The OP song I thought was pretty good. Like it very very sweet. Doesn't bother me. In context, it was just a very sweet song. The closing, it was fine. Not that memorable to me. All right, now before we go to our spoiler section, our next anime, this will be Jeremy's pick, is the anime. We're not playing a video game online again. Anime Nier Automata version 1.1a. Have any of you guys played Nier ever?
I have not played it. I've seen gameplay, but I have. Yeah,
I've listened to State of the Arc wax philosophical about the game and like walk you through the entire process, but I have not played it either.
The Nier series is nuts. I did play the Automata game for like an hour, and it's really bland. No, theme-wise and like all the genres they're mashing up, it's a work of genius, but also I was bored out of my mind. But I love reading the lore. Nier... Okay, so Nier Automata is a sequel to, or maybe a prequel, I don't know, to Nier, which is a spin-off of...
Sequel.
It's a sequel, okay. But Nier is a spin-off of... Drakengard, which is its own crazy series.
Oh, yeah.
Like it is... And I've gone down the Wikipedia rabbit hole, and probably like 3 times now because I always forget it. And then I'm just like, okay, if I need a good rabbit hole to go down the Nier Drakengard rabbit hole. It's insane.
It is.
So looking forward to the anime.
Yes. Yeah, and it should be pointed out too that like from Drakengard to Nier Automata, massive time spans have passed, like to the point where they're disconnected sequels.
Right. You don't have to have played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes even like universes have changed.
Even people who play all the games are like, these are connected, and then you like read the deep lore and you're like, oh, okay, there's a connection. Yeah. So don't worry about having to have any primer here, but I just wanted to say we're getting into some deep stuff if the anime holds up.
If you ever want
FNAF level.
yeah, basically. And if you ever want to watch anything really fun, really cool, go watch the last Drakengard game. Watch all the cinematics.
But hold on, back that truck up. Jeremy, did you say as in you understand FNAF lore?
No, just in the sense that FNAF lore has such a complicated progression from game to game. So that's where I saw the similarity.
As someone who's gone down both rabbit holes, I feel like FNAF has nothing on Nier as far as bonkers and like Jeremy was hinting at it. We're talking, it's nuts.
Or even just go watch the original Nier's cutscenes and like various potential end game cutscenes. It's insane. Like the babies falling from the sky.
Can I spoil how you beat the original Nier or one of the endings, if I remember this correctly?
Again, for me, spoiler warning.
Spoiler.
I don't think. Again, it should not affect. Again, this is a gameplay thing. I think you have to win. You have to delete your save file, and you can never play that game again.
Oh no, that's one of the potential endings. There's one of the endings
Nier
does have that result.
Right.
Yeah. But it's the developer actually left it entirely up to the player which end is canon. And then when they actually when they started making the next game, he did wind up picking an end, and it's not the one you'd expect.
But yeah, and isn't Nier one of the possible endings of one of the Dragon Guards? Like
Yeah.
that's how it works.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah,
Yep.
when I say FNAF has nothing on that, I just mean it's so multi-layered and crissy-crossy, whereas FNAF is at least one world.
Multi-layered and crissy-crossy.
Yeah.
Especially if you start bringing in the books and the movie and the...
I mean,
No.
where does Nicolas Cage play into it?
Anyone who does that
Wrong
will be
franchise.
watering down their
Oh.
YouTube channel immensely.
Was that a shot?
Shots fired at food theory. We gotta start beef, guys. It's the only way to get popular these days.
It's fair.
We need to talk about this anime. Spoiler warning for the dangers in my heart. Spoiler warnings being dropped. We're going to reveal all 2 characters and all the plot events that happen. No, there are more characters. This one of the worst things about this is they have a very weak cast. But, all right, our first main character. So this is just a Japanese middle school, and we have a normal schoolboy who is, what is that word?
Not normal.
Chibiyo. No, but he's one of those cringe lords.
Emo.
Yeah, their equivalent of emo. And his whole thing is he wants to be a murderer. He fantasizes about murdering his classmates all the time. He's our main, especially the secondary protagonist who we'll talk about in a second. But we need to talk about him, which seems, again, weird setup. But what are your guys' thoughts on Ichikawa Yotaro? But we're gonna call him
It's very difficult to constantly be watching a character where you're having to constantly remind yourself, oh, they probably made that decision because they're a 13-year-old. But then also reminding yourself, oh, this is how the writer chose that this 13-year-old would react. So, and it kept pulling me out of the immersive experience of the show. Because it was very frustrating to watch someone who is going to make those mistakes because it's their first time doing it, make those mistakes, if that makes sense. And however, the vehicle that he is for the audience is one that just, I thought they did a really great job pulling the audience into his shoes. And like most anime, or actually most media, I don't connect with emotionally. There's very few pieces that really hit me. And this one, I didn't feel hit emotionally, but I felt pulled in emotionally. And that doesn't really happen very often. And I did find myself rooting for him. Like, you're going to screw this up, but, do your best, kid. Like, this is kind of how I felt. But then, like Troy said, like, there was a lot of stuff where I go, oh, I remember that. Oh, I remember talking myself out of something because I thought it would, like, there's no way that person likes me. And I think a lot of us have been there. So very relatable kid in that respect. As far as the murder aspect, I think that was all just a made up facade. And it was his shield, right?
Right.
Not only was it there to keep people away, but he was lying to himself about this desire the entire time. And that's why it dropped so easy, because it really wasn't him. It was just his imaginary wall he was attempting to put up.
I understand it for the character. I guess I don't understand it why the writer chose this as their hook, as the, hey, he's a murder kid. Why couldn't he just be an awkward kid? Why did you add the murder? They do explain it well for him. Like you said, you nailed it perfectly why he's like that. I just don't get why the writer even chose that in the first place. It seems like such an extreme place to put your character at a starting point.
I think it's because it makes it stand out. I think it's because when you read the description, you go, oh, this is different from all the other romance anime that I could be watching instead. And I wonder how it's going. Where's it going to go from here? If this is where it starts, what's going to happen? I think that's entirely why it was done. Because, yeah, psychologically, I agree with you, Jason, 100%. But as far as like putting that as the first two sentences of your description, that you're defining your anime with like, hey, are you hooked? Are you curious? Are you intrigued? And then you kind of just drop it. It's just dropped after like 3 episodes. He hardly even talks about it at all.
You sound really disappointed no one was murdered in this.
It's not that no one was murdered. I just would have liked to have seen. I was intrigued. I was genuinely intrigued. Like the concept of this kid has something wrong with him, right? Like his perception of people is so heinous and like villainous, right? He objectifies people in this way. And then watching that type of character be changed by Yamada, by the protagonist, well, the other protagonist, it would have been really interesting to see him gradually have like 2 warring. Maybe this is because I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3 and you can play as the Dark Urge and I play as the Dark Urge and the Dark Urge is like, oh, I've got all these dark urges. I want to kill people. But maybe I shouldn't because, you know, I'm a player and as a player, it's extremely hard to be a bad guy. And so maybe that's all it was. But I do think there is something there where like it would have been interesting to see that battle inside and actually see good triumph over evil and him become a better person in a more extreme way. I mean, it's certainly there because we do see him like shove off some of his more.
I think that's where there's
in
my opinion, I think there's a misconception there. He's not a bad person that is slowly turned good. He's a good person attempting to wear a bad person outfit and doing it poorly.
Yeah.
And so you're just upset that the description didn't match.
That's right.
The story. Okay.
Yeah.
False advertising.
Yes. If you're gonna, you hooked me with this description. You know, you did.
I was feel lied to.
Curious.
I see.
Yeah. And so when I come in and the character's like, you know, give me 2 episodes of the character. It wasn't even really 2 episodes. It was like one time at the very beginning where he's like really fantasizing about, yeah, I'm going to make her like writhe in pain and I'm going to stare at her face and it's going to be great. And then from then on, he's like, he just hardly mentions it. So it's like this one moment where it's like, yeah, this is what the description said. And then we're going to drop that. So that's not who he is. Like you said, that's his fake version of himself that he drops so quick. So, yeah. I'm disappointed.
I also, so I wrote the murder thing off to a cultural thing too. I think there is something there where in Japan they would see that because of the I can't say it. Chunboyo. Yeah, because of that culture, that's probably a much more common known thing where you can make it the hook of your anime. I mean, how many do we watch with a character like that, right? We just watched.
Yeah. I'll kill you.
It was a couple months now, but I watched. I'd never seen it before. But it was from the '80s, a movie called Heathers. Very old, obviously '80s, but a lot of people know it. But watching it now, I'm like, this would never fly because it stars Christian Slater. He's the antagonist, but he's the boyfriend who's convincing his girlfriend to help him murder a bunch of classmates, and you know all the popular girls and the rude jocks. They're going on a murder spree, and it's a comedy. And I'm like, wow, this does not fly. Like his opening scene is he pulls out a gun in school, and he just gets suspended. And I'm like,
yeah,
this movie doesn't work in America today. And I think that's part of it. Like the idea of a student serial killer is very uncomfortable, more to us. So it's a much more, maybe even tantalizing hook to us, whereas someone in Japan is like, oh, it's another edgelord, another cringy guy, just another cringy guy. Is
like they would know. They would know right away from reading the description. Oh, this isn't real. He's just lying to himself. Yeah, he thinks he's tough.
There's a 13-year-old in every classroom that's like that. That to them. I don't know for sure. That's kind of how I had to write it off, to just not care that they kept it up because they do just drop it right away.
So I have one other thing to say about him while we're still on his topic.
Mhm.
His self-confidence is very low, but at times it's just so low that he came across as like really dense to me. Like there were some things that there's no way you could misinterpret those things.
He's 13. He's
I
never
know.
experienced this stuff, right?
I know.
And
I
that's
know.
that's one of the frustrating things for me. I agree with you in a respect, but I'm constantly having to remind myself of that, and that was a little yeah.
But there were other 13-year-olds in his class that I know, I could tell those 13-year-olds would not have been constantly doubting themselves. You know? So it's definitely like him as an individual, like he has so many barriers to accepting these things,
Yes.
even beyond just his age,
Yes.
that he came off as really dense.
No.
not to you, Troy, but
He's very realistic. And how dare you go on that? What? So he's not my favorite character. The other character is actually my favorite character. He's fine, and I don't. A lot of his actions were very similar to things I did when I was 16, falling in love with my first girlfriend. But I was nothing like him, nor was my girlfriend anything like the girl in this. So
You never fantasized about killing people.
No, didn't have that. Didn't wear the all black. If anything, I went for the goofy clown, so to keep my real self armored behind. Yeah, everyone does that in high school, right? But what I wanted to point out is they kept at the end of every episode they keep showing carte and then a number, and I had to look that up, and it means chart. And in this case, it's his medical chart. She is curing him of his personality flaws. That's why they show that, and it's every step is another process in the cure of him growing. And the thing I related most to him is okay, let's just start the therapy. I moved from junior high to high school to a new town, and so I lost all my friends. And I went to this new high school, and I was like, screw it, lone wolf. You know, I'll just get through these 4 years alone. I don't need to have any friends. I can do this. And this group of kids was nice to me in my freshman year, but I kept them at a distance. I didn't want to be close friends, and I missed more. They changed. This is true. They changed the rules of that high school about how many days you can miss because of how many days I missed of school because I was always sick. When people ask my wife, "Oh, that's so cool you're together," still, they all say, "And Troy survived." And she's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "He was always sick." Well, I wasn't always sick. I was lying. And then this character is like, "Yeah, I missed out on a lot of stuff, and a lot of that stuff I was lying about just to miss out." And now he's going to school. When I met my girlfriend / now current wife, my attendance shot up. My grades shot up. I hardly went to school my freshman year. I went almost every day my sophomore year, and I never missed a day my junior year because I had a reason to go. And then so that's what this story is about. It's about him finding something worth liking and growing into a real person because of. And that was, again, very relatable, as different as I am from the character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with all that. You have my stamp of approval.
Okay. It's going to get worse before it gets better, guys.
No caveats from Jeremy? Where is the calendar?
I know, right?
Right.
Except for this one thing. It'll come later.
Yeah.
Okay. The girl of his desires, wink, wink, is Anna Yamada. So, thoughts on her?
I'll hit on the bad first. And this is more I'll let you decide. If we're gonna be drawing a 13-year-old, there's no reason to make her look 21. Like this is far beyond.
Yeah.
So like with what was it? The My Dress Up Darling. Like they were older looking than what they were in high school, but at least it was believable that these were high schoolers. There's there is no reason these kids shouldn't be high schoolers. Yeah, so that's what I thought was not so great about the character. What I did like, my favorite thing about this character is their snack obsession. Like, the happiest this character is at any given moment throughout this entire anime is when she's stuffing either chips or candy into her mouth. It's adorable. Like the way it's done is just absolutely delightful. And I like and don't like. Again, it's just me being an adult where communication is just kind of the best thing to resolve issues. And these two characters, because they're 13, they don't know how to communicate. So watching that was extremely frustrating. Mm-hmm. But to watch the slow burn development of their relationship was heartwarming. But again, like even the sister at one point asks, like, "Are you sure she's in junior high?"
Yeah, I was thinking about that too.
and so I'm just like, I don't know. Like that part bugged me, but that seems to be a common thing within these younger romance anime, and I've just never been on board. It feels weird and awkward.
Yeah, 13-year-olds with double D's is just
that's
automatically cringe.
Yeah.
I think they could have stuck with like the height. They could have stuck with, having her basically hit her growth spurt before him.
Yeah, it's very realistic.
That happens. Yeah, that's very realistic. And she was much taller than the rest of the girls in her class. So, and like you said, everybody was commenting on how she was taller, but they didn't have to make her also voluptuous. Like, come on, guys. Make her look like a regular 13-year-old. Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, actually, besides that point in particular, her personality, the way she interacts with the world, the way she interacts with Ichikawa, and the way she reacts with the teachers and the staff, I found it all enjoyable to watch.
I found her a little bit off-putting at the beginning, and I think it was because I interpreted some of her behavior to just be kind of rude, socially rude. For instance, when she was sitting in there and she's like, "Oh, here, have this bag of snacks," and then she's like, "Oh, there's still some in there," and she eats them all, and then she just gives him the empty bag, and she kept doing that for a little while, like giving trash to people, and just her general, like, she came off very aloof to me, very oblivious. Like, I didn't see much empathy or compassion, like, in her responses and behaviors with other people. This changed drastically after like episode 3 or 4, like very quickly. But in those initial episodes, I was like, wow, I don't really find her very likable. And so it took a little while to warm up to her. And I actually still find, like, watching different scenes as I got farther and farther into it, I find myself a little bit confused about who she really is, like what her personality is. She's very much a slob in many circumstances, right? And so I was thinking, okay, so she is a slob and she doesn't really care about, cleaning up after herself or anything. She doesn't even cross her mind, which, fine, if that's her character type, that's an interesting character. I'm interested. Tell me more. This is cool. Where are you going with it? But then it shows her and she's like washing dishes at someone else's house. Like, she had the desire to clean up after herself. And I was like, okay, maybe this is a unique situation because, she's in her not boyfriend's house. Mm-hmm. So maybe she's like doing something out of the ordinary because she knows it's what, somebody's got to clean up and it'll make her look good if she's cleaning up. But then at the same time, I don't think that's really how she thinks. She's too impulsive to be that calculating. So I don't know. I find her a little bit confusing, and I tend to think that it's either because they didn't do, in my opinion at least, a good enough job of giving a clear expression of who she is. There were enough contradicting moments, enough times where she did something that just was not even close to the same thing, that I was able to just be confused. That shouldn't happen. That should not happen. I should be able to at least tell, see the consistency. But other than that, like, she was fine. I kind of at times felt like she was there to just facilitate the romantic scenarios. Like, what if you had the prettiest, most awesome girl in the class and you're just nervous and you don't have the self-confidence, but she's interested in you. So she keeps presenting you with all of these situations and all of these scenarios where we get to watch you be uncomfortable. And she never stops liking you. And I don't really understand why. I mean, I've got some ideas why, but like at the same time, it just isn't that convincing to me. Like the separation of how pretty she is, and I'm going by the class standards, the fact that she's a model, the fact that she's on TV and everything, and her height and just all of these things elevate her. And then he's actually a fairly short young boy and a kind of a self-made outcast. Like, I don't see the connection as being as believable. I mean, obviously we can argue all day about it. I'm sure she's like reaching towards him because she doesn't like the guys that are in her sphere. So she's interested in the outcast. Yeah, I see all that. But it's just, I don't know. It's a really weird situation where she almost doesn't feel as much like a character to me as a piece to work off of for him. And yeah, I don't know. She doesn't seem to change much either.
Jeremy, let me explain romance to you.
It's my turn.
Honestly, I think I'm gonna do my review of her, and then in there I will say why I think she likes him.
Sure.
I'm gonna start with the bad though. She's dumb.
Yeah.
What you took as like she was like aloof, I was like, she's like a child. She shares like a kindergartner shares. Like, you're like, share your snack. So they break off the tip so that they've technically shared their snack, but they still have their whole snack. That like or oh, I don't know what to do with these bag of chips. I'll hand it to him. I'm sure he's a smart guy who can figure it out. Not to, hey, he needs to handle my chips for me, because that was just the obvious solution she could find, and she doesn't want to dwell on it. It's almost too much at times. Like it was like watching a kindergartner at times. However, she's adorable and she's earnest, and the fact that she likes him so much carries the whole anime, I think. How much she likes him, because we never get to see her point of view, so the anime is constantly hinting to us that that she has feelings, that it's not just a one-sided thing. I think that they did a great job with that. To me, the reason that she likes him is because he has seen the worst of her, the snacker, that she does keep from her friends and other stuff, and his opinion of her didn't change. Where everyone else puts her on this pedestal, he saw her be an idiot. He saw her nom 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 nom, and was fine with it. And my theory on love is that it's found in the flaws. That, you know, when my wife's away, I miss the stuff that drives me crazy the most. The wanting to cuddle on a 90-degree day. It's so hot. I need air.
Yeah.
But when she's not there on a 90-degree day, that's what I miss. It's the flaws you fall in love with. That's the difference between, hey, this person's cool and I want to spend the rest of my life with this person, is I don't like that they do this thing, but I couldn't live without it either. So to me, that was super endearing. That what I saw as the reason for her liking him, and when she munches on food, it is adorable every single time.
It is adorable. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Can I make
Jeremy.
a counterpoint really quick?
Yeah.
I didn't get the impression that she hid her snacking from her friends. There was just one friend that like had allergies or something, and so she ate outside her room to avoid giving her allergies. But everybody else, like, she pigged out, like,
She
in
hid
front of them
it.
without any.
She hid it from his
fear.
family.
Did she really hide it from them?
Okay, so I think we might be fixating on that a little bit, but I think there's actually multi-layers that they did present very well in the show. The manga that she gave him is one of her favorite mangas, and it's about an aloof boy that is kind of mysterious, and the girl follows him around to get his affection. She sees him as aloof.
Right, so it's her type.
So that's where the initial interest comes from. The second is because they spend so much time in the library and the time that they do spend together. So the boys that tend to come in front of her are either pervy or they're this like self-absorbed and you should be on my level. And also the people that she seems to reject in her life are the people that talk about, she has one girlfriend that she keeps around that talk about, you're this level and you shouldn't be talking to these boys on this lower level. Like, and so and that was another thing, like, especially during the movie episode, like all of their friends were talking about the movie itself and the producer and like what kind of cool things it's going to do. And he was the only one that asked her about her role and her things. Right. And that's another theme in the library is he's always talking to her about her interests and her things, or just kind of waddling through a particular conversation because he just wants to get out of there. And that's different from the onslaught of boys just, being pervy towards her. So I think all of that plus the flaws thing, because she's open enough to be, not just doesn't mind that he sees it, but she indulges when he's around. It slowly developed into this, I'm comfortable around this person, he's kind of aloof, I like the way he treats me, I think I like him. I know I like psychoanalyze that way too hard for an anime that I'm not particularly in love with.
Also, he's super considerate. We should add that in because he always is going out of his way for her, and she notices that even when he tries to hide that he does. That definitely is a factor.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, should we start with plot? No, we want
to. I think the last thing on top of that, with the whole being considerate, it doesn't seem, or at least I don't think she sees him doing those considerate things to get with her. It's more about her feelings. Well, yeah, he cares very much about her feelings, and that's shown time and time and time again. And I think she appreciates that a lot. So what do you have to say about that, Jeremy?
I want to add, I didn't like. There's kind of a balance he has of protecting her, but also a little possessiveness they both have. But that could be just chalked up to being 13.
Yep.
I kind of liked the possessiveness. Those moments cracked me up. Like when she'd get pissed off because
her being jealous was always funny.
Yeah, that was funny. Where she's like sharing a textbook with somebody, and then he's like, "Oh no, don't!" Basically distracts from that, and then he needs to do the same thing, and she gets absolutely pissed. Oh, it's okay when you do it. It's funny. Yeah, that was funny.
All right. We're gonna start the plot. He goes to the library where he likes to go and read his creepy books, and she's in there for the first time and is picking away on snacks, and then also starting her poster board for a group project, and she needs to cut the poster, and he's like, "Oh, she forgot her box cutter. I have one in my pocket because I'm a slasher." Slashing prices. So he ends up lending it to her, even though he's worried what that'll look like, that I just happen to have a box cutter in my pocket. But she borrows it, and then when she leaves, she does the whole, "Hey, do you want these chips?" And he looks, and there's some chips left, and she's like, "Oh, I didn't see those." And she just pours them down her throat, and then gives him the empty bag and leaves. So she wanted him to take care of the garbage.
One thing that might not be apparent to American audiences, unless you watch anime on a regular basis, schools in Japan don't allow snacking. They're actually eating at any time.
In that great, we covered this in that great anime that we just watched.
Urusei Yatsura.
Yeah, remember the whole snacking war?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried to wipe that from my memory. I can't believe
You actually taught us about this that
Yeah.
episode.
Well, not everyone watches it or listens to every podcast, so gotta explain it.
Well, you know they
Jerks.
didn't miss the Urusei Yatsura ones.
So yeah, it's like she's not supposed to be snacking, and
Yeah.
so that's what makes it even a little funnier.
She also does it immediately after lunch. Like they have lunch and then they go off to break, and she immediately starts eating again. Yeah. So she takes away his box cutter, but it's on his desk the next morning, and then it's presentation
and it's
time.
warm.
It's warm.
Well, and he was surprised she knew which desk was his.
Yeah.
Her group has replaced her poster because it was covered in chocolate and very sloppily done because she is a slob. And then they present it, and then afterwards, while he's up with his group presenting, which he doesn't talk at all because he's the quiet guy, but he did the poster. He notices she's starting to cry. But then there's also a helicopter outside, so everyone looks towards her. So he pulls out the box cutter and he slashes the poster. And so I'm like, oh, so they're gonna make it so he keeps acting creepy, and they only do this twice, where he does something creepy to distract. And I thought that was gonna be like the whole thing, but no. But he saves her, I guess, and then she's distracted by the helicopter.
Yeah. I thought it was a little contrived. Just like, helicopter, really?
The only thing that I didn't like was that he slashed the poster and the teacher's sitting right there and doesn't say a word. The students are all like, oh, why did he do that? And the teacher's like, hey,
Passing grade.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Just trying to get
Not
through my
paid
day.
for this.
Right, then there's these three pervy boys who are always behind him talking about the girls, and the shortest one, he's like, oh yeah, I really like the fat girl over there.
Yeah.
Say that she's this husky girl, and then she ends up in the library talking with Anna or Yamada. I'm probably gonna call her Anna just because it's quicker. And then the boy shows up to ask her out, and Yamada doesn't even like connect that what's going on there, and she's making it worse while Ichikawa's in the back of the library again, like, oh, she's ruining it. But he knocks over a book, and then Anna's like, oh, it must be a cat. And then she's like,
she knows he's back there.
Yeah, she knows he's been watching her, and she's like, he's like, oh, I had to pretend to be a cat. So he's like, meow, meow. She's like, I'll go check. So she goes back there, and she starts meowing, and they're like, that's a different cat. So then they had to pretend to be cats who are fighting, and it just gets really stupid, but it was also it was cute.
It would have been way better if they had stood up, gone around the corner, and you guys are idiots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next scene is he goes to a magazine store to buy, because she's a model, and he goes to buy a magazine that she's supposed to have been in, but she shows up in the store as well. And I love this scene because like she's like trying to move the magazine onto other magazines so it fills more space, and then these girls are looking through it, and she's like posing in front of them, and then even makes eye contact like it's me, but they don't care or know, so they get all weirded out, and he just watches this whole thing. But then he buys the magazine and takes it home, and he throws it away, but then he pulls it back out and says, well, it would be stupid not to use it once. And that's the end of the scene.
That
Yep.
yeah.
You know, he's 13.
He's 13.
God bless him. And the end of the episode, a guy we'll call the pickup artist, that's what he calls him, starts hitting on Yamada, trying to get her text message info, her line ID. She's trying to blow him off with jokes, and it's clear she's getting uncomfortable, so Ichikawa throws his bike down the street and crashes it into a river to distract them.
Like, if it had hit a rock or anything, it was careening straight for Yamada. Like, went right past her.
Yeah.
But it works, and she asks him why he did that, and he makes a joke, and she laughs, and then they just stare at each other. There's a lot of they just stare at each other in this anime.
Yeah.
Minutes worth.
Yeah.
It's a romantic comedy. You get what you get.
Yep.
Okay, he's spying on her in the library again. She's trying to get water for her snack, so she's running and filling this little plastic snack cup and spilling everywhere. So he starts trying to clean it up for her, and then he ends up going up to get her a cup. And she gives him the trash again, but this time there's a little bit left.
She's like, "That's for you."
And it's like
I would have been insulted.
three sprinkles.
Right.
Yep.
That's why I say when like her idea of sharing is what like a preschooler who has to technically share. That's what I keep
Crumbs.
getting from it. Yeah. Then the boys are being creepy because the girls are sweaty. So one of the boys is walking by and he does like, he does something creepy to creep him out and make him turn around. I forget what it was.
Excuse me.
Oh, he dropped his knife on the ground and then the kid picked it up and he like extended the blade.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
That's right.
She borrows his fan in the library and makes him smell it. Then she hides from her best friend, whose name is Chihiro. Doesn't matter. Her best friend, little tiny girl. He calls her the boyfriend. But she's looking for Yamada, and Yamada hides under the table, and the girl comes in. Who knows Yamada's there because she's this giant girl hiding under a table. She came in through the door. But she's like, yeah, she's always sneaking off and hiding from me so she can eat snacks because she knows I'm allergic to snacks. So we find out that being in the library to eat snacks isn't like this act of rebellion. It's a considerate act, but still kind of selfish because she wants a ton of snacks. She can't not have snacks. And that kind of explains Anna. She's considerate to a point where it's still going, she's going to get her snacks.
It's got to benefit her.
Yeah. But, she will think of you.
While snacking.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Then we get the culture festival, which he doesn't like, but he helps with the banner. But the chubby girl puts on one of the graves the name Yamada because it's a common last name like Smith, and everyone in the class gets upset that her name is on one of the graves. It's very rude, and he takes the blame for it. And then they're gonna beat him up, and then the chubby girl comes in. It's like, no, I did it. So they erase it, but then they just look like gray blocks. So he puts his name on the graves.
On all the graves.
All the graves. And then Anna asks him to paint her face, and he puts a little red dab after explaining her how to make the blood look more realistic, and he puts it on her, and then that's too much for him, and he's done.
Mm-hmm.
Then the pickup artist comes back and is trying to talk to her, and her friends are forming the female barrier, whatever the opposite of wingman is. They were doing that. So he cuts through this exhibition hall during one of the classes to get to the other side. She sees them and she goes back in there with them, and it's like a map of the city 100 years ago, 10 years ago, 80 years.
Mm-hmm.
Weird detail to remember.
It's a map.
Cool for you. It's an old map, and she takes a selfie of them together after they figure out how close they live to each other. All right, he's then working on a manga. That's to set up for something later, but then he has to go to the nurse's office, and poor Anna is also there with a headache. He has a headache. She has a stomach ache.
Probably for something she
Probably
ate.
from snacking.
Right, but she gives him medicine that she also took, and I'm like, what medicine cures both of those things?
Right. It's probably a sugar pill.
You really shouldn't take pain relief for stomach.
So
you need to monitor that pain.
In order to find, so it looked like a 2-pack of Tylenol in their own little capsules, right, in plastic. And what was really funny about the scene is, in order to find it, she had to dig out this pile of wrappers to find it in her pocket.
Pretty obvious why she's sick. And he gets all flustered because he's gonna have to drink out of the same glass as her to take it. But then she leaves.
Indirect kiss.
Yeah. she leaves and she forgets her sweatshirt from PE. And he's like, I want to smell it, but he doesn't smell it. He did think I should murder her here. This is, I think, like the last time he thinks it too. Maybe I should murder her here. But then he wants to smell her sweatshirt, but he doesn't. But the nurse walks in and throws it at him, so he ends up smelling it anyway. And he's like, it smells like sweat. And then he takes it back to her. And then at PE.
Wait a minute, he took it back to her?
Yeah.
Isn't this the beginning of them like wearing the wrong?
No, that was later.
That's later.
Sweatshirts come back.
Oh,
another
not
time?
Jeremy.
He's lagging again.
Oh no.
Your counterpoint was lost to time.
Because we're stupid anyways.
Am I
Okay,
back?
he's back.
Or am I
You're back.
still lagging? Okay.
Did you say something there?
Oh no, the only thing I said was wow. That
Okay.
the sweaters come back.
Yep.
They always come
All right.
back.
Then we have the pervy boys are trying to ask pervy questions to the girls. At first, they ask him to pass what he thinks is going to be a pervy note, so he sends a picture of the girl he's drawing for the manga, which looks just like Anna. And he gives that to her instead. So she thinks that's a gift. That'll come up later. But then they ask for a personality test for like how you touch hands is how you like to have to do stuff. How you like to do things.
Right.
The best part was the one boy touching the other boy's hand. Like, wait, why did you pick submissive?
Yes. Because he knew. Like, he knew because they had gone over, like, this is what each one means. So,
Right.
like, why did you consciously pick this one?
That guy's a freak.
Yeah. Oh.
And then he's like, this is stupid. But in the library, he's holding something. And she thinks he stole. No, she can't find her snacks, and she assumes he stole it. So grabs his hand.
Hold on, no. She knows there's 15 in the bag, and she counts 14, and she's like, one of them's missing, and she just tears the place apart looking for it and thinks it's in his hand, so she pries his hand open.
And so she grabs his hand, and he's like, she likes to be on top. But then she finds out that she had the candy the whole time. Then they're in PE, and we find out she's in basketball club, but doesn't really go very often because she's busy with her modeling job. And he gives the ball to her at one point, and then she's staring at him and not paying attention, and she gets hit with a ball to the face, and it busts up her nose, and she gets sent to the nurse's office with a bloody nose. So he goes chasing after her. He's not sure why, but he wants to check on her. So he army crawls into the office under the bed, and she's crying to her mom because she has a photo shoot that day, and she's like, I'm so sorry, I ruined the photo shoot. And she drops a plastic carrying case with the picture he drew inside her, and this is when he realizes I'm liking her now. I like her. I have romantic feelings.
So I'm a little confused. How does seeing that picture tell him he likes her? Like, to me, that says, oh, she likes like you.
Because when you're in that state of, basically, he doesn't like himself, right?
Okay.
Right.
So because he's in this state of push away, I don't like it, his it's not stated in the anime, but most likely, in my opinion, he sees that photo in her wallet and probably thinks she likes the photo, not she likes the person who drew it.
But that leaves a potential opening so that he can admit to himself that he likes her.
Right. Because if she likes something I did, then maybe I like her. But there's no way she could like me. She just liked the drawing. That's probably what's going through his head. Because, like I said, he clearly from the outside does not like who he is.
That is some serious mental gymnastics.
But it's very common. Like I've gone through that.
Yes.
I mean, I have too, but never this frequent or consistently. Like he does it with every single interaction. And that's just shocking to me.
Yes. It's real. It happens.
Sixth through 8th grade was rough.
Oh man.
Freshman year. No, sophomore year. Sophomore year. God, way too old for that. But I never had a girlfriend. This was my first.
And
Yeah.
Yeah. I married her. 1 for 1, guys.
There you go. You can't
All
beat
for
that
one.
score. Yep.
And all for love.
hey,
No?
that means you've got 100% hit rate.
That's what I was trying
That's
to
right.
say. Yeah.
Yeah.
I never miss.
That's right. Literally.
Yeah.
She has to wear a bandage the next day. I love her friends writing on the bandage. I hurt my nose. It's fine.
Yeah, because everybody kept asking.
Okay, so this was a Troy move here. So he sees her crying. She does this from time to time. She does have a bit of a complex where she feels like she lets people down and gets emotionally overwhelmed by it. And so he sees her crying. So he goes to, and also notices she's running out of tissues. So he runs to the library and he puts a tissue out on the table where she always sits and writes, feel free to use. But then he's like, oh, she'll think that I did that only for her, and then she'll have to deal with the fact that I have feelings for her, and then she'll have to reject me. So he pulls out every pack of tissue he has and puts one on each corner of every table, writing the same thing. So she comes in and there's tissues on every table. This is not one I've personally done, but this is a move straight out of the Troy playbook when I was falling in love with my wife. I'm going to do something nice for her, but she can't know I'm doing something nice for her because I don't want her to feel like she has to repay me or like there's any attachment to it. So I'm going to do, hey, I bought everyone a pretzel. Cassie's favorite food snack that she has every day, but I bought one for everybody because I'm that kind of nice guy.
Just want everyone to have one, not just kids.
I'm not just doing this because I have feelings and would expose that.
Deception check failed.
Stop talking. Stop looking at me.
Also true to reality is to her it's super obvious what he has done and what this is, and that is also true for real life. One great thing about the fact that I married my wife is I got to hear all the other side of the story, and I was an idiot.
Oh, so it was 100% transparent.
Oh yeah.
No one was fooled.
But yeah, this scene, this was like I said, not something specifically I'd done, but very much the move of I'm gonna do something nice, but you overthinking it so much that you can't. You gotta dress it up. You gotta hide the act.
That's awesome.
Just not well.
Like I said, this is a bittersweet episode. That's a sweet memory, but also a cringy one. All right, let's gonna get worse. Okay, there's a girl who's staring at Anna, and then she takes milk into the library, a special, like you mix it with you make a sludge pudding thing.
Sure. Yeah, I haven't seen that food before.
But she wants a bowl, so he's like, "Well, we'll go to home ec to get it." Or she's like, She's like, "Go get me a bowl."
Well, she was just gonna pour it right into the milk container.
Right. And then she's like, "Well, then go get me a bowl." And he starts to go. She's like, "No, I'm kidding. I'll go with you." So they go to home ec together. It's locked. So then he comes up with the idea we could try the science lab. And they go in, but they have to sneak in there because there's people around. Again, remember, no snacks. And she makes him try it with his finger, and then she starts munching, and then a teacher comes in, she spills it all over the place, and it's very insinuating of what they might have been doing, but they get in trouble and have to clean up. Anyway, we come back to that girl who's staring at her. She's the one who hit her with the basketball, and she wants to apologize, but she also doesn't they're not as close friends like they used to be, and there's this whole maybe there's going to be a plot line here, but there isn't ever. Yeah.
She's too airheaded for there to be a grudge held.
Right.
Because, she she doesn't think of things in that respect or those kinds of timelines. Like, she just doesn't have the memory capacity to hold a grudge. So it's like she doesn't even realize why this other girl stopped hanging out with her.
And then, but one of Anna's friends is mad at this girl for not having to apologize. So like, there's this drama going on, but Anna's not even aware of it.
Yeah. In fact, she thinks it's her fault for not looking at the basketball.
Which it is. It is. You're playing basketball.
Oh yeah.
You got to look up. He's riding his bike home, and he sees her coming out of the store, and she had just bought snacks, and she asks for a ride. So she rides on his bike. And they have the scene where he's going to pass a police precinct, and he's like, I got to get rid of her. This is against the law, and then people will know she's hanging out with me, and her life will be ruined. But she doesn't care. And then she shares a snack with him.
And they pass the precinct without incident.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is this where she gave him one of the bottles?
Yeah, so when she first gets on the bike, she gives him the tip of the bottle with just a little bit of the candy or snack inside of it. But then once they get there, she actually gives him the full snack, and he gives her the tip of the bottle.
I thought that was cute.
That was...
little tit for tat.
And he's just completely dense. Or at least he refuses to see what's going on. Like, because from the audience perspective, we can definitely see that she's interested in him. But he keeps doing these mental gymnastics to go, there's no way.
She is a nice, caring, giving person who's very friendly with lots of people, and I'm sure she does this with anyone she hangs out with.
Yeah, do you ever see her do this with other people?
Special.
Oh, no, I meant my wife.
Oh, okay. he doesn't see her do these things with anybody else. That's one of the things that was always bugging me. I was like, how do you convince yourself that she does this with everybody if you don't see her do this with everybody?
I don't know, it's an assumption.
It has nothing to do with her. It has she could write a letter, I like you, and it wouldn't click. It is his self-worth, which is increasing. So he's starting to accept the possibility as we go along. But it is very much, there is no way that I'm worth being liked.
Yep. And you'll continually rationalize why that's the case, no matter what the evidence is.
Insanely so, as we'll get to.
In Troy's life or in this anime?
Yes. Anyway, they're at McDonald's, and he's there with his sister having lunch, and then Anna and her friends come, and he's trying to keep his sister distracted, and he goes to buy a chicken sandwich because he saw that she had one, and his sister was making fun of him like, you just got a salad. And he's like, well, no, I got to eat something then. Anna's here. So he runs downstairs. And then Anna comes down, and she's standing in line with him. And she's like, I wanted to get an ice cream. And he's like, oh, okay. And then she's like, oh, I forgot my wallet. He's like, well, why would you not bring your wallet if you're going to order something? She's like, oh, I just wanted to use the bathroom. But the bathrooms are upstairs. Ha! She leaves. So it's obvious she came down there just to talk to him, right? And he
is doing mental gymnastics.
And he does mental gymnastics
to avoid that conclusion.
Right. And then he buys her an ice cream. But then when he's walking up the stairs, she's like, oh, you just copied me again. And he doesn't give it to her. I felt that. My girlfriend, or soon-to-be girlfriend, my future wife, gave me a ride home from school every day that she didn't have practice. She didn't do this for, she did it for some of her other friends, but no other boys were allowed in her car. But I alone got a ride every day, and I thought she was just so nice.
Because there's no way.
No, I'm not okay. It's a little bit therapy. I haven't talked about this in a long time, but it's really important for me to defend how realistic this obviously stupid stuff is.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that it doesn't happen. It's just that it's such a rare case, I think, for somebody to be this consistently doing mental gymnastics.
Do you not have the person in front of you that is consistently doing it?
That's still a rare case.
I don't. I'd like to think that as a 40-year-old man, I would be okay now. Dear Lord, let me never find out. But yeah, I mean, as a 15, 16-year-old guy, again, I had just moved. I had just gotten over. I was just starting to get control of really bad acne. My parents had just gotten divorced. There was a ton of stuff going on in my life. Self-worth was in the trash. And again, just like this guy, I went through a journey of like rediscovering myself and enjoyment in the world. It was a sweet time, but man, I was stupid. It's stupid.
So you make a good point though. What did this kid go through that put him in that horrible of a situation?
He lost his best friends. He lost all his friends.
Well, not just that. He didn't get accepted into the schools.
I'd say that's very similar. Like that's it's the same event, just two aspects of it, two facets.
Right, but two important aspects for a young child. To be rejected and then to lose your two best friends. Like that's a lot for a little kid.
Well, how many kids were rejected?
Doesn't make their pain any less valid.
No, but I do think that it means that a lot of them are rejected, and you don't necessarily see this behavior from a lot of them. I don't think it's enough, is what I'm saying. I don't think those two facets are enough for his extremeness.
I have very little in common with the actual guy, but I do think they set it up well. Of that, his natural response is to push things away when he doesn't think he can get it. His line later about hey, do you have the text message thing of your club? And he's like, I don't know if they have one. And then he's like, I don't want to ask because if I'm not in it and they have one,
so I'm not going to want me there.
Yeah, because they don't want me there. So I'm not going to ask if there even is one. That's real life, man. That's some true talk of.
I've done that too.
Right. Yeah. So I think he's fine, especially since he's also 13.
Right, but I mean, some people, depression does weird things to you, right? Like, it maybe not just maybe the friends were just added hurt, but like that not getting into that school, that could have been a moment of my self-worth must be really low if these people think I'm not good enough to get into this thing, and then it just snowballs, right?
He does talk about how he had all those awards, and then calls that the glory days, and how that's all gone now.
And if his parents weren't aware enough to help him out of that, or he hid it from them well enough that they weren't aware of it, over the years, you get to where I need to put on this facade of being a weirdo murderer because that's going to.
Yeah, and that's how his first interaction with people in his class. I mean, I will say, like, the way that he treated his mom in the school when she came in for the visit, to me, that implies that, he's got his walls up against his parents. Like, he's not letting them in, because he was trying to get ahead of her, don't want to be seen with you. I know to some degree that's probably just standard for most kids where they're like, oh, it's kind of creepy. I don't want my parents to be seen with me when there's parent-teacher conference thing, but at least for him, it did seem like there was a little bit more there. Because his parents, at least his mother, what we did see with her and his sister, they were looking out for him.
Right.
So I didn't see a situation where like he was truly alone. It was more of his, rejecting everybody because of whatever internal issues he had.
Yeah, 100% self-imposed.
Mm-hmm.
She gets called into the teacher's office because a bag of snacks has been found, and she's like, what does that got to do with me? I didn't throw a bag of snacks away.
No, it was just a single wrapper in the trash.
Well, she doesn't know that. They just said they found snacks. Okay. I thought they found out later it was just a single lozenge. But that was the library. This was, hey, we found, because she thinks it's the potato chip bag.
Yeah, I thought specifically it was a empty bag of snack in the trash. At least that was my impression.
Because later she's like, you did that, Ichikawa. And he's like, actually, it couldn't have been me because I kept that for posterity.
Yeah. And it wound up just being like, if I remember correctly, it wound up just being like a lozenge wrapper. Like
That was when the sign goes up in the library, and they go to the librarian and ask, "Why did the sign go up?" And she said, "Because we found a lozenge in the library."
right. I thought that was the same event, just different
Nope.
stages. Like the first stage was they're asking them about it, and then the second stage is
Could
the
be.
library taking action because of
Could be, but even after the lozenge, she still thinks it was the bag of chips.
Okay. Interesting.
Now, this is one of my beefs with this anime. I wanted this mystery solved, and they don't.
Yeah.
who threw away the garbage?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because she's so meticulous not to do that because she doesn't want to get caught.
Yep.
And I actually thought, okay, that was Ichikawa's bag that she asked him to throw away. I
thought
thought
so
for
too.
sure. And then, yeah, we find out he kept it in a Ziploc baggie and took it home creepily.
Do you remember when she was in the library and she was like looking for something in her pockets, and there was at least like her friend was, no, it was when the girl was coming in to apologize.
Oh, yeah, she
And
offered to share snacks with her. And
She
it was
offered
all
to snare,
just-
when she did that, she pulled her hand out of her pocket, and all of the wrappers came out of her pocket, and they were all individual wrappers. And then her and the other girls all bent down and picked them up separately. That's why I think it's one of the wrappers, is because I think that's when it happened. One of them dropped it in the
Yeah,
library.
it could be.
Anyway, he defends her, which the teacher is so startled by him like speaking up and having a voice, and talking.
But he doesn't even like fix the fallacy of his
right,
argument.
right. He's like, well, she has said she has not thrown it away. She's never admitted that she had snacks, and the teacher could just go, well, did she have snacks? But the teacher's just like, hey, you're talking. That's awesome. Good for you. But yeah, again, this is something I related to, of finding my own voice as I got comfortable with. I grew into this friend group because there was a girl that I really liked in the friend group, and yeah, learn to become more social, which is definitely not my strong suit, as we have established in my previous therapies.
Welcome to Baka on the couch.
Men will start an anime podcast just so they don't have to go to therapy.
That's right.
All right, the next one. Okay, the class has to go visit local businesses in groups of 6. So then there's this whole scene about the boys. Okay, there's 2 groups of girls, and there's 4 of us, so we need 2 to go with one group and 2 to go with the other. So they go to Yamada's group, and they're like, hey, pick who you want in this group, and they go through this whole drafting phase, and they're trying to get the one guy over with the chubby girl, but the main girls want him in that group because even though he's just as creepy as everyone else, he's just nicer, I guess.
Maybe it's because they know his creepiness is directed over there.
Right?
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, because 3 of the 4 of them are the creepy kids, the pervy kids, and they're like, well, he's not targeting us, so I guess he can be here.
Ichikawa gets into the group, even though he has to lie about how bad his grades are to do it, but Anna knows that he lied. Anyway, there's a nice one. It's the first time it's raining, and Anna asks if she can borrow his rain slicker because he wears it to ride his bike home. And she's like, I forgot my umbrella, because he's thinking of romantic scenes, sharing umbrellas. She's like, can I borrow your umbrella? And I'm going to go buy my own umbrella because I forgot mine. So she puts on his rain slicker and she leaves, and then he realizes she forgot her bag, which has her wallet in it. So he runs after her, and when he gets there, she's like, oh, can you take out my wallet? He opens it, and her umbrella is in the bag, and she's like, it's broken. So he gives her the wallet, and he goes back, and he tests out the umbrella, and it works. And yes, this is definitely one of those moments he should have 100% been like, something's going on. But he doesn't.
Yeah.
She comes back and had bought snacks and an umbrella, and she's talking about pudding, but she yells out, I'm just falling in love with it. And he's like, the snacks, right? The snacks. She basically is declaring that she has feelings for him.
Yeah, I do love that they're consistent with her snacking. Like she didn't just get the umbrella; she brought a big bag of snacks, and like resting on the top of it is a chocolate snack that she didn't get to eat earlier because another girl ate it.
That's right.
And
The other girl had eaten it.
Yeah. And so I thought that was a really nice touch. And I also like that, she sticks to it. Like when she lies, she sticks to her guns. She still bought the umbrella.
Yep.
She's gonna pretend that she's not lying all the way to the end.
Okay, then they do the visit to the business and they go to a manga publisher. We get a shout out to Baki. Not Bochi, Baki. Very different anime, man. Baki's the, super muscle men who like flex their finger and destroy buildings.
And he's
it's basically what happened in Bochi as well, right?
Yeah. He's fighting to find out who's going to be king.
Of guitar.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm not really into these kind of manga, so he's like, yeah, me neither, even though like he loves Baki, and they're getting to see like this early draft print of a manga panel, and he's like, oh my god. Well, she sees how excited he is, and she drags him over, and he gets to see it. And then on the way, in the elevator, they get all crammed into an elevator and have this very intense physical moment, crammed against each other in an elevator. And then she's like, hey, do you like romance manga? And he's like, no, not really. And she's like, well, do you want to borrow mine? And then her friend makes a comment of like he'd want to read that. And in his mind, twist that into that Creepazoid would never read our kind of manga. And he sees them both talking about it. So then he gets all upset. And so he goes to the bathroom. And when he comes back, it's only just Anne. And she didn't tell anyone that he was going to the bathroom. So they lost the group. And they missed their train. This is a really good example of the mental gymnastics that a person plays. Of you take that one little thing that you can just twist the context of, and blow that up to 1 million and be like, there's the proof right there. That's all I needed.
She must hate me. They're playing a game to mess with me. Yep.
But so this is another scene where she cries again, being upset that she has inconvenienced someone, and but he thinks that she's upset because he made her late, so he buys her a milk tea, and then he makes her feel better. They get on the train, and she hugs onto his backpack.
So before the train gets there, though, she turns to thank him on this bench, and all of a sudden realizes he's like 6 seats away from her. She's like, so much space.
Uh-huh.
Which is funny because we never hear her thoughts, so she must have said that out loud.
Yeah,
right, and so true. But the reason is because he's trying to make her feel better, but he's still in his own head with her making fun of him in his head. So he's like, oh, she must not like me. I'll sit over here at the extreme end.
On the train, she's asking him about couples. She makes it about Haru, the chubby girl, and the one guy. But then she's like, I like the idea of like a secret couple, and they don't tell anyone, but they're secretly dating. Meaning,
she so can't keep to this,
right? But yeah, hugs onto his backpack the whole way there, and then they do catch up with the group. Again.
Well, and on the train, they actually wound up holding hands too. That was their first time.
Nope. Man, you have them all mixed up.
No, they got separated on the train.
That's the second time they're on a train, man.
Another train.
Oh, God.
There's 2 sweatshirts. There's 2 snacks.
This show, I swear.
There's 2 trains.
There's 2 trains.
There's
it all
2 bike
blurs
rides
together because it's like the same flavor.
Yeah, I can see that.
Same flavor of pain.
Yeah, basically. Okay, I gotta say, like, do you remember when you were watching Kaguya-sama Love is War, and you were talking about how, like, you were really frustrated with how the characters would never just resolve things with conversation, and it just didn't make sense. Yeah, and so for me, like, I'm watching this, and I'm getting the same level of frustration because the characters are, like, the mental gymnastics are just so intense.
But they're all, and this is what's frustrating me as well. They're 13. This is probably his first serious romantic interest.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know how to confess his feelings. He doesn't know if he says the wrong thing, is she going to go tearing off in tears away from him? Like, and his self-worth is already so far low that, any rejection from her is just going to mentally break him, he believes. So it's better to gymnastic himself into she doesn't really like me, so I shouldn't try because that way I don't get hurt.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That is a fair motivation. I just don't find it to be a compelling show to watch. Like, to me, that is just like,
Yeah.
God, I don't want to see any more of this.
No, that's why I said this show caused me a lot of anxiety, and I'm not
Yeah.
it's not particularly my thing. Like, I know I picked this anime, but like watching it I was just like tensing up, and I was just like, just say something.
So
I
when
just found myself annoyed.
when I watch anime, TV series, movies where there's a mature couple in a relationship and they don't just talk things through, yeah, I get super frustrated.
Mm.
That is where I am in my own relationships in life. Like, just talk, just communicate, and most things can be worked through. It's impossible for him at this point, and so I don't hold it against him. It's the club line address thing all over again. I can't ask because then I could find out that they didn't want me there. If I don't know, I don't have to face that. Which is exactly why she should probably be saying something. To be fair, she doesn't seem to be having the hangups that he does.
Mm-hmm.
But he can't. That's impossible for him to do compared to like a mature adult who absolutely, I have expectations that you would have this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
To him, I'm like, yeah, that's what he's trying to work to. He's trying to get to a point where he can do that. That's his character arc.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And I mean, like in the first few episodes, he couldn't even form words. He's like,
Right.
But by the end of it, he actually gets out the words "I like you." So,
Well,
or at least I
and-
like her to a friend.
Actually, it's a pretty pivotal moment when her friend is like, "Hey, you're talking normal to us."
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
that was a really big growth curve right there.
Mhm.
Which I never did. Okay, I never stuttered. I just didn't talk. That was way easier.
All of my criticisms, just keep in mind, all my criticisms are just like as far as entertainment value for me from an anime. Like nothing personal.
No,
That's
fair
fair enough.
So all these stories about sophomore year, I actually met my wife my freshman year. I don't remember this. She said, my impression of you is you didn't talk. Our similar friend group, which is how we end up meeting, they brought her in. They're like, hey, Troy, this is Cassie. Cassie, this is Troy. And apparently I said, nice to meet you, and walked out of the room. And that's technically the first time I met my wife.
You don't remember?
No.
That's beautiful.
That is amazing.
Okay. So, yeah, but I didn't stutter at all.
No, you said exactly what you needed to.
You don't have to stutter if you don't talk.
That's right. Okay. We do see him talking to his family about the visit, and they're like, "You told us," and like they're noticing. This is like the first time he's been excited about anything school related ever. He's coming out of that shell, and I love this. He gets to school, and she's waiting for him outside the school gates, and he's like, she's waiting for someone. Dang it. And she runs up to him and she's like, hey, I got you those mangas. And she realizes she really does want him to read it. So she gives him the first copy, tells him the whole plot. and then starts walking to school with him. He's like, aren't you waiting for someone? And she's like, yes. Yes, I was. And so she has to go back and pretend to wait for someone at the front gate.
Yep. This is one of those weird moments where I'm like, okay, she did say that she thought it'd be more fun if they were like pretending not to be in a relationship, but then being in a relationship. But at the same time, she's dumb. So
yeah,
did she really pick up on that?
I'm not sure she's because of his weirdness and aloofness. I'm not sure if she's 100% sure he's into this and doesn't want to overstep. He tries to read the manga at home. Doesn't go well. But eventually one of the pervy boys notices that he's always talking to her and comes up to him and is like, hey, what can you tell me about her? Because I've developed feelings. I know that because I can no longer wank to her.
That was hysterical. And then he's like, does that mean I don't like her?
Right.
Yeah.
So implying that, there's been plenty of wanking behind the scenes.
It's not pure. Oh,
I have the
that
note,
was
you
funny.
can't wank to someone you like.
Yes,
Thanks,
it's a
anime.
fact.
Okay, then we get the no eating sign in the library, so they go talk to the library teacher who mentions the throat lozenge.
I love that scene, by the way, because she's standing there almost as if she's just spotted a dead body on the ground. And he hasn't come around the corner yet. And so he's like, who's around the corner? Like, what is so concerning? And then he turns around the corner. It's this no eating in the library.
Yeah.
It adds a sense of drama to both of them because the convenience of the library and what they both use it for is what brings them together every day and allows them to see each other. So he's seeing the sign. He's like, oh, I guess we're coming to the end of that. That's kind of a bummer. And she's also worried, like, oh, I'm not coming to see him. But the next day she's there. She pulls out snacks. She's like, I already knew the rules. What's the difference if there's a sign? But a teacher is in the library that day. And she's eating chocolate, so he reaches out and grabs her hand to hide it, and ends up melting on her hand and saves her. But she gets all flustered and he's all flustered that they grabbed hands. And then she tells him to leave, and I think it shows that just so she could lick the chocolate off her hands without him watching.
She totally did that.
Like he thinks she's rejecting him, so he's like, "You should quit snacking." And he leaves, which upsets her. So she comes to the library.
You should snack less, basically. Not cold turkey. She could never handle cold turkey.
She's in the library the next day doing homework with a little bit of snacks.
Yeah. I reduced it, like you said. You know what's funny is that she said it's less, but it's the same exact box. Like, who says it's less? Like,
but it's under a book now.
And well, no, it's a notebook, and she says, "Oh yeah, I'm doing homework." And he looks. Not only is it under the notebook, but there's nothing on the paper. Yeah, it's just blank ruler paper.
She does do homework because it's mentioned later that her grades start going up from this point on because she starts doing extra work now that she's put some focus in during the library sessions.
I guess you could say that is a little bit of an arc for her.
Yeah,
she started doing homework.
So we get a scene where he realizes that she is on TV on a weekly TV show, but he misses it that week, and he's all bummed out. And they're in PE. I made a funny note here. I'll get to it in a second. They're in PE, and he's running, and she's trying to run with him. She was supposed to run with the chubby girl, but she's like starts chasing him, and he's like, "No, I'll look weak if she's as fast as me." So he's running super fast. She eventually just grabs him and yanks him back. But then he's watching her run. And I wrote, watching her makes running hard for him.
Oh, man. We'll be here every Tuesday. Try the steak.
They make this joke so many times in this anime. It was really surprising to me. Like, I didn't expect them to be as honest, with his reactions, because he does this like 5 or 6 times where he's like, "Oh, gotta hide it. Don't get one right now. Don't get one right now." And that's just kind of weird to see in an anime. You don't normally, especially one that's just, I don't know. Maybe we don't watch romance anime very much. Maybe this is normal. I have no idea. But it was weird to me. I was like, oh.
I remember the joke being made in My Dress Up Darling, but that was very much about the fact that their sexuality was blossoming while they're falling in love, and it was a little weird with a 13-year-old kid.
Yeah, exactly. Super weird.
They accidentally swap sweatshirts here. So she's wearing his sweatshirt, and he's worried about what that's gonna do to her reputation and stuff. So
I don't think it was accidental.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Yeah, no.
What I'd be worried about is how she fit into it.
So we know it's not accidental because he's trying to warn her about it, and she keeps not getting the warning. Like, he goes up on the board and like answers the question, but then is like pointing at himself, and everyone's like, "Dude, we get it. You're cool and can answer the question." And she was like, "Actually, he's wrong." But she eventually returns it without him ever having warned it, and he's like, "When did she notice?" And it's implied she knew the whole time. Then we get to she's going to be in a movie, and then their seat assignments are changed, and he's like, "Oh, maybe I'll get to sit next to her." But he sits she's one up and one to the right from him, and she's so big he can't see the board. And then the guy next to her, she starts sharing a book with, and so he finds the guy's book in his desk. He's like, "You have the book. You don't need to share." But then the chubby girl who's next to him is like, "Hey, you can't see well. How about I share my notes?" And then Anna gets all jealous of him. So he's trying to explain to her, "I can't see well," and he says, "All I can see is you." And she gets all happy and flustered, and then the chubby girl comes up. He's like, "I fixed the seating arrangement, so now the girls are behind him and the boys are in their front. You can't see her anymore."
This is what I was talking about when I was saying I would like it if they added some more like different variety of interactions where you have a problem and they have to solve this problem. And the problem isn't just, can I express myself? Does she really like me? But the problem is, stepped on somebody's toes. What's going to happen? How do we fix this? I liked this moment. It was actually really cool because of how different it was from the rest.
There's also the level. He doesn't want to just say you're too big because
Right.
she's sensitive to that. And,
Exactly.
And so like, yeah, he doesn't know how to right.
Got to navigate dangerous territory there.
Yep. Then in the library he asked her about the movie and he notices how her reaction is like. I think it was Jeremy who pointed out that he cares about her. So Jason. Doesn't matter.
It's probably Jason.
One of you guys
It
was
was
really
Jason.
smart. It was Jason.
Yeah, it was Jason.
Jason's. Oh, he's here. And
Can't admit that.
it's so hard for me.
Jason's contributing a lot in this episode.
She starts practicing her line, and then some girls come into the class, so they go to a very small, cramped closet together to practice the line. And he promises to see her movie, and she gets all excited, and she leaves. He's like, "What about your line?" She's like, "I can't say that to you anymore because she was saying you're a creep." And
Yeah.
she doesn't want to say that to
Everything has like these multiple meanings for kids. I swear. You can't just use words. You gotta like dance around them.
He watches her on TV that night, and he's relieved she doesn't talk, which I'm assuming he just doesn't want her to get too much attention. This is again where the possessiveness I found, because he watches her on TV. He's like, he's happy she's on TV, but he's really happy she didn't get like screen time.
But then he also is like sad for her. Like,
Yeah,
no.
but
Figuring that
she's
she's going to
super
be sad
happy with
about
it because she was on
Yeah.
screen so much.
Mhm.
There's a scene where her best friend's not there, so she's teaching her other friends how to be her chair and where parts of her body they're allowed to touch.
Okay.
Which she draws on the board, like, because there's you can touch cats here, here, and here, but not here. So she draws that for herself on the board. And then one of the pervy kids is like, I gotta go erase the board. He's like, I'll do it. And then he like memorizes, okay, you can touch here, you can touch here, before he erases it. And then best friend comes back and they talk about how the grades have been improving. So she comes to the library for tutoring with Ichikawa, and Anna gets jealous again. Also,
You won't tutor me.
Yeah. And then parent-teacher conferences, and Yamada gets to meet his mom, even though he's not in the room, and she's super happy about it.
I did like her reactions every time that his family was involved. It was really entertaining because she would be like, she's just edging in, getting really close, and just like super hyper focused on them.
I really liked that scene where the three girls are sitting there on the bench, and Anna's mom is telling her, like, sit up, mind your legs.
Yeah.
Mind
And
your
Ichikawa's
posture.
mom is doing the
And
same
Ichikawa,
thing.
yeah, exactly. She's just like, she's doing the exact same things.
That was good.
Then they're in the library again. She asks him for help. He has to try to warn her because she has the throat lozenge from his mom. He knows she'll get in trouble. And the teacher's there, so he whispers in her ear. But that is actually one of her no touchy zones, so she gets super flustered about it. But that's because she did an updated picture later that he missed.
And her girlfriends call her out, like, we didn't ask for you to do this again.
Yeah.
TMI.
Did she do that after that scene? Is that why?
Yeah.
Ah, so she learned my ears can't be touched.
She
Without me getting
redrew
close
the
to it.
entire thing just to add ears.
All right, it's raining again. He doesn't have his rain slicker, so he rides home in the rain. And he runs into Anna, and she's like, "Hey, I can ride on your bike and share my umbrella." And he's like, "Actually, you're going to work, so you can't." So, she tries to put a plastic bag on his head, maybe murder him. I don't know. But when he gets home, he realizes her stuff is still in the basket of his thing, and there seems to be some lady stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
So he rushes back to the train station and gives it to her, and she's like, "Hey, it's not that kind of lady stuff, but thank you." But then
It's for my mom.
Yeah, that was weird. Like, why did you say both those things? Like, it's not that kind of lady stuff, and it's for my mom. Like, there's something suspicious there. Is this another broken umbrella?
So he goes home, and then he has a nightmare about her, one where she's both giant and tiny, but it's because he has a fever, and this is a fever dream. He misses school. She comes to check on him. He passes out with a fever. She dresses him, and he cuddles with her to her chest. In a fever dream state, he doesn't ever remember this, but he is told later by his sister and his mom that she stopped by.
Did you see the after credit scene?
Yes, and then, she now has a cold, and her friend's like, "Hey, what happened to that dessert you didn't eat the other day? And why do you have a cold?" And he's like, "Oh, I guess even she gets cold sometimes." Not putting together.
2 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Then she's asking for his line info, so his text message, and there's this whole this is where he's like, she's trying to like, "Hey, does your club have one?" Trying to figure out any way to get his information without directly asking him. He doesn't
And
pick
he's
up
just
on
not
it.
getting it. Yeah.
So one of her friends is
Again.
like, "I want to get all the addresses of all the boys so that I can get a boyfriend." You bat a thousand, you have to hit at least one, right? So
this is her stated goal. I want a boyfriend before Christmas. Like, I want a new jacket before later. It's like,
so Anna
this was
realized
another one of the characters that I wish got more screen time because she was genuinely entertaining.
she was funny,
and drawn like a cat.
Yeah, she was cute.
Well, she's what is it called? Gyaru? Gyaru? What is that? How's that pronounced? It's a like tan, and they're a little more.
Oh, like
It's a
different
thing.
region? Or
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
They
It's
dye their
tra-
hair blonde a lot, and
Yeah, they like to look like Californians.
yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah, she's
Gotcha.
that kind of girl. Anyway, Anna's super into this plan because that means she'll be able to get Ichikawa's address. So she goes to ask him first. We find out his ID, Rem.
Yes.
So you got to respect an anime that has the Rem Rom discussion.
Yep.
Deep into it.
Nobody mentioned Amelia though.
I knew that was coming.
Wonder why?
Because this girl's is talking to him, Anna gets jealous again, and so she goes and talks to another boy for the other girl, but does it just to make him jealous. And he realizes, oh, I think she was trying to get my line ID.
You think?
Yeah. Pickup artist is back. This time he's flirting with her best friend. And Anna's trying to warn her, hey, he's trying to use you as bait to get to me, without saying that. But her friend just, obviously a girl who stands in the shadow of her best friend of Anna and is like, oh, finally someone's giving attention to me. So she's ignoring the advice. And later the other girls are like, no, the guy's totally using you. And she's like, oh, I knew that. And she has to make up with Anna, realizing what had actually happened.
What's really funny is that the Gyaru girl winds up with him later.
Yeah.
Like she's in his little harem group later.
Speaking of his harem group, so one of the girls he's with, I guess it's a girlfriend, but sees Anna and Ichikawa in the library and goes and grabs him. And when he gets brought to the library, Anna grabs Ichikawa's face, trying to give the impression. Because at first she's like, I don't have a boyfriend. She doesn't want Ichikawa to think she has a boyfriend. So she's very clear. I don't have a boyfriend. But when she brings him over, she grabs Ichikawa's face, trying to give that guy the impression she has a boyfriend. This leads to a misunderstanding with Ichikawa that he's being used. He's been the anti-bait for her. And he actually stops talking to her for a couple of days, stops going to the library, and she eventually pulls him aside. It's like, are you mad at me? And starts crying. And he realizes he's being a total jerk. And
this whole interaction actually to me was one of the most believable of the mental gymnastics. Like, I got this one. I was like, okay, I can totally see this is smart. You're looking back, the first time that she started paying attention to you is when you defended her from this guy. Yeah, I could see this one.
He makes up with her, and then they hug. They hug like in the stairwell, so no one can see them hugging. They have this nice hug. They walk home together, and he eventually returns her manga, and they talk about it. She purposely forgets to bring him the next one. It's like, I guess we'll have to meet up for me to give you the next issue. You'll have to give me your text info, and we'll go out together on Christmas Eve, or I'll give it to you we'll meet up on Christmas Eve, which turns out to be a date, which is the next episode. They both arrive early because they're both excited about it. He's like got a mask and a hood on, so she can't even see him. But they go out together. He eventually pulls the mask down. She makes him hold on to the same bag she's carrying so they won't get separated. And then they go to brunch, and she does this line about like, I heard people on a first date shouldn't stand in line at an amusement park because it could ruin the relationship. And then realizes what she has just said is they're standing in line and what that implies, and he doesn't catch on at all. And then he's like, oh, boys are supposed to stand in the front of the line. So he's like, I'll move first. She's like, nope, because they're finally at eye-to-eye level.
Yeah. That was pretty cute.
Then they have brunch, but it's so expensive he doesn't order anything except for black coffee, and he makes up the excuse, I don't like sweet things. So then he can't put sugar in the coffee, and he's like, oh, it's so bad. But she makes him take pictures and a video of her eating. And he's like, that's a weird thing to put on social. That's going to look stupid, her shoving food in her face. But then she sends it only to him. And he's like staring at the phone like, oh my God, she sent this to me. And she reaches up and she touches his face and says, don't forget to watch the real thing. I was like, that was a very sweet moment.
But it's also like, if
Right,
there's any doubt left.
That was kind of a hammer to the face. And I think at this point, he's starting to like relieve, or those walls are starting to break. Right.
Yeah. They go clothes shopping, and she's trying on outfits, but his sister shows up, so he makes her hide, or they hide in the changing booth. But he does compliment her dress.
She pulled him in, by the way,
right?
Because he didn't know what to do. He was like frozen and indecision. He's
also been struggling, knowing that she's naked behind a curtain right behind him.
Yeah, this was another one of those scenes.
Afterwards, they're walking home. She puts her scarf on him. They see some beautiful Christmas lights. And this is where they're on the train home, and it's crowded, and they start to get separated. So she grabs onto his hand, and then he grabs onto hers back, but they hold hands all the way home.
Yeah, because they never let go after they get off the train. That's right.
All the way home. And then he gets home, and his manga self confronts him, which looks just like the boy in the manga that she reads, and convinces him that she's just touchy-feely with her friends. True story. I held my future wife's hand for a whole movie and convinced myself that was just something friends do. Did not ask her out or do anything with that information. So this one hurt. This one hurt a lot.
Your brain had abs from all the gymnastics. Yeah. It was so ripped.
I can't even tell you now. Like it's I look back, it's like, duh, man, what were you doing? It was it was a movie night with all friends, and there was a couch pillow. We held hands under the pillow so no one saw. It was like secret hand holding, and it was awesome. And how did I not figure it out? How did I not know? But I didn't. There's a word. Okay.
Not dense. That wasn't it. No, not possible.
Okay, then we see him in the future with his arm broken, with the pickup artist and some of Anna's friends. But then we jump 4 days back. He's on a vacation with his family to visit extended family in a snowy area, and he falls down a hill and he breaks his arm because he was trying to get a good winter picture for Anna because she wanted to see one. She calls him that night by video phone in her PJs.
Yeah,
it's like a sport bra.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Exactly.
Which he realizes right away, but she doesn't realize right away. But his sister catches them talking, so he hangs up, and then he's trying to cover up, but his sister kind of lets it go, which he finds odd. And then Anna calls back and has him do all this weird stuff, like take a drink at this moment and look at the moon right now and rub your own head while she's patting the head of a teddy bear. And, yep, that happened.
Yep. Little control freak.
So he buys her a little dog a little dog charm because he knows she likes dogs. And he tells his sister they're both gonna get one for him and his sister, but he's actually for Anna. And then when he goes out to give it to her and her manga bag and her scarf, he runs into her coming to see him because his arm was broken, so she wasn't gonna make him walk. But she has her dog with him, and so they go to a dog park, and there's this cute scene of like, you can give my dog instructions, and he does, but the dog doesn't move, so Anna starts doing the spin move, but ends up holding his hand again. But in this scene, he's like, should I give her this present? That would mean like something, and I don't want her to feel like it has to mean something. Last story. This girl I liked, my future wife, her favorite thing in the world was X-Files. It was like the only thing she geeked out about. You know, I had Star Wars and anime and all these hundreds of geek things. She just liked X-Files, and she really liked David Duchovny. Still does to this day. Huge crush on the man.
Don't blame her. Good taste.
Yeah. I'm not threatened by that at all. It was like 2 years after the first X-Files movie, so it wasn't as big at that time, but there had been action figures. So I'm like, I'm going to get her a David Duchovny action figure. And I scoured the city for him. I had my parents drive me to all these different comic book stores, and I found two, and I bought her both. And the plan was, I'm going to ask her out. I'm going to give her this super meaningful gift and ask her out. All my friends knew I was going to ask her out like it was the day. And right before I gave it to her, the thought went through my head, what if she doesn't like me and then thinks she has to go out with me because I gave her these gifts? So I'm just like, here. And started walking away. And one of my friends was so frustrated with me, he kicked me in the ankle, but hit that like weird soft spot, and my foot collapsed and I fell on the ground. And it could have been in this anime. It was so pathetic. So him sitting there with the gift in his hand, like overthinking it and double thinking it, and maybe I shouldn't do this. Yep, that happens, guys. That's real.
Dude, I would have enjoyed watching that more because of the comedic element. Like the falling down afterwards, adding a bit of body humor to it and a bit of exasperation to it. I think that it lends so much to the story. I think that's one of the things that, at least for me, was missing here.
Maybe, but she did do the little dog turnaround, so there's a little.
That's true. There was some body humor.
Look, I'm just saying, I'd already seen the hand-holding scene and was like, gosh, this is really poking at my own pathetic past. And then they do this whole gift-giving thing, and I'm like, oh, my goodness. He gives it to her, and she loves it. Of course she does, and she's super happy about it. But she is kind of upset he tried to return the scarf. She's like, I wanted you to keep that. later he runs into pickup artist, and that's how he ends up at this diner with him. And this pickup artist is like, give me her text message information. He's like, well, I don't have it. And then she text messages him right at that moment. And he's like, he gets the girls to go away, and he's like, hey, give it to me now. And he's like, I don't want to. He's like, no, you give me a reason. He's like, I'm not going to give you a reason. And then the funny girl that is now hanging out with his boy is like, hey, I'm going to walk home with him because we're actually friends. She was hiding it before. And she's pointing out to him, you're a terrible liar, but I'm glad you stood up for yourself. And he admits to her, I like Anna. And she's like, yeah, man, we all know. Like,
we know.
Yeah,
She does a fakes an echo.
I think you're the last person to know.
Yeah. But this is also his first time vocalizing it out. And because of that, he calls Anna. It's so funny because the one girl's like, you want to come inside? And he's like, no. So then he calls Anna, and here's the girl walk into the room. Anna's literally the apartment upstairs from where he is. He could have seen her, but he wanted to hear her voice and wishes her Happy New Year's. She also had invited herself to go to the temple with him on the day he's supposed to go with his family. So he's there with his family. He's got this plan. I'm going to go with the family, and then I'll separate with him and then go with Anna. But she goes there early and joins the family. And the mom's like, oh, this is Yamada. And the sister's like, oh, this is Yamada, the one you were talking with. They go to the shrine. She helps him because he's got a broken arm. She puts her hand on his hand so he can make his wish prayer.
And does like a back hug too in order to do it.
And whispers in his ear too.
It looked like the dude helping a girl learn to golf. Like,
yes, it did.
Yeah.
It totally did.
That's a good analogy. So, then after Yamada's like, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to leave. And he's like, okay, good. I'll go meet up with her in a little bit. And the sister's like, no, I'm going to go back to her, and chases her down. And they find her with a ton of food. And she said, I'll go for you. And the sister's like, wait a minute. But the sister invites her over to their house where she teases them a lot and then shows off yearbook pictures. But they also point out, because we're getting close to the end of the story now and they're kind of wrapping up their themes, that he doesn't have any pictures for festival day or outdoor day, whatever it is. But everyone seems kind of bummed by that. But it's what he does. He skipped out on stuff because he didn't enjoy stuff like that once past elementary school. We also
which also makes like the manga day or the like visiting the manga studio.
Yeah, that he would go
that
at
much
all.
More special. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I got to admit, like this entire sequence where the sister got involved, I actually really liked because it showcased a side of a side character that was really interesting, right? Like you thought she was just going to be doing nothing but teasing him and maybe abrasively, but there was more to it than that. Like the first album that she pulled down was her own album, and she's like showing what she looked like in her new year in all of her yearbooks. And then just use that to get his album later. But also the fact that when she saw that Yamada was wearing the little doggy tag thing that he had gotten her as a gift, she left her own behind for him so that he could have a matching one with his not girlfriend, which was incredibly thoughtful and not what I expected that they were going to do from the way that she was introduced as a character. This sister was introduced as like the tropey, annoying older sister that's just going to pick on you the whole time. But throughout this anime, at every interaction that I saw, especially like in regards to Yamada, she was very supporting of him, assisted. She was appreciative that Yamada was pulling him out of his shell. It was really cool. It was nice to see that character.
You know, they didn't expound upon it too much, but from the short scenes that they did have with her, it seems she had very similar self-esteem issues that.
Yeah. Yep.
I'd agree. And it also seemed like a touch of depression kind of fell through this family.
Mm-hmm.
After the sister leaves to give him some time alone, Anna's going through the yearbook. She's like, I've actually seen this same one because my best friend has it, and I had looked at it not too long ago. Not to look for you or anything. But then she finds his murder books, and she thinks they're cool. That he's studying like criminal psychology, and she's like, well, what's going through my? She's like, can you read my mind? And I'm like, it didn't say psychic.
Mind reading.
It said psychology. And he's like, well, you're not a murderer. She's like, I could be. And then she starts to touch the magazine underneath.
Okay, that was
pillow.
funny too.
She doesn't see it, right?
Oh no,
I don't
she saw
think
it.
so.
No, she
I
saw
think
it.
so.
She did see it?
Yeah. She turned and looked and saw her own face, and that's why it became like really.
Well, she's not on the cover.
Yeah, that's not her on the cover.
I thought she was. Well, she knew
No,
the magazine.
Wait, she would definitely know the magazine.
So maybe she didn't see her face, but she recognized the magazine.
Jumps on her to try to stop her, ends up pinning her down, and
It's
then
even more awkward.
and it gets very awkward. And then she gently pushes him off, and he thinks, okay, I just ruined it. But then she takes a bunch of pictures of his yearbook, and it runs out, and it's like, I'll show you my yearbook next time. And he's like, wait, did she just invite me over? Then the ending scene is after the flashback of him not being able to get into the private school with his best friends, because she had asked about his old friends, and seeing that is where he kind of put up his walls. And you see him packing his murder books and thinking them as like, this is the shield, the armor that I put on to keep people away. And his parents drive him or his mom drives him to school, and Anna's there, and he takes her to the side, and she takes him to the side to put the dog charm on him, because he wasn't able to put it on himself. And he thanks her and tells her, I like school now, thanks to you. And he drops his murder books, and she picks them up for him, but he lets them drop again. I think it's very nice symbology of, I don't need this armor. I have something that I'm willing to open up to and grow. And they have this nice, quiet, hugging moment. And then they go into the school, and she's like, hey, here's a snack, and it's an empty bag. But then she gives them a real piece of candy because she's grown a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
I think there's some symbology there, but I didn't quite work it out, so it's fine.
I think it's the equivalent of the symbology of when she gave him the bottle and he gave her back the cap. I think that's the extent of it.
So, just for those wondering, I asked my wife out on the very last day of school of sophomore year because I knew if summer vacation hit, who knows what happens in summer vacation if you don't have a reason to see each other. Without the library to pull us in together, I needed something, so I finally asked her out, and we've been married ever since, basically.
Well, that's not when you get married.
To be fair, though, when we got married was still not when most people get married. So don't worry about it.
Leave it at that.
Yeah. All right. What did you guys think of the anime?
I wasn't quite sure what I was expecting walking into this one. Like I said, I saw some funny clips. It honestly, it looked like something Troy was going to pick down the road anyways. Mostly due to
Hell's Paradise. I had the coolest anime we've watched lately.
It's true.
Whatever.
But I can also see you picking this.
Yeah. It also, it's super popular, right? So, also we got to stop picking high dive only anime.
You can find it elsewhere.
Oh my gosh.
I hate finding this.
Yeah.
Ads. So.
I did find myself surprisingly liking the anime, even though there's also a side of me that didn't quite like it for its entertainment value. And I ended up feeling like I was watching the worst of my internal self.
Yeah.
But as far as like a story, again, I wish they weren't 13. I wish this wasn't junior high. But that's the story that this writer decided to tell, was the angstiness and really overcoming of oneself at that young blossoming age. So, This is all to say I'm confused and I'm still lost and lonely. No.
If
I'm
it
gonna give
was
this.
if
Oh,
it
go
was
ahead.
older, do you think you would find it more or less palatable if everything else was the same but they were older characters?
Probably not, because I would probably be going. Why isn't more progress being made?
Mm-hmm.
But like if they were like 17, 18, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I would be. There should be, even if it's like a first crush that turns into a relationship by the end. Like there should be. They should be smarter than that. Have more life experience, right? Because there's a lot of experience learned between 13 and 17. Um, so that's why there's a lot of passes I give this anime just because of the age group. But I'm also not a big fan of watching romance for this particular age group. So anyway, long story short, I'm going to give this a 3. It's not terrible. It's also not something I'll probably watch ever again. That's me.
Mm. So if it wasn't obvious, I was totally expecting Jason to hate this anime from the start. And this entire time, I've just kind of been in shock. Like, wow, you don't hate it. I kind of do, actually. Like, I don't hate it per se, but it's pretty close. Like, it's fine. It's cute. It certainly has its moments. I certainly remember similar situations to what you were describing, Troy. I've had my share.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Everyone has. Definitely.
Sure, we all have. Yeah. But at the same time, like, I really want something more out of an anime than that. So having an anime that just kind of focuses on that growth and that growth to the exclusion of any other story beats, to the exclusion of any greater arcs, I find myself really bored with it. I would have loved it if they had gone somewhere or done something with their titular like danger. If the danger wasn't just him trying to convince himself that he was a bad guy, but he actually did have negative tendencies and was trying to fix them, or maybe have a few more interesting scenarios that they got over instead of all of it being just him trying to get over his own internal struggle. I also thought it was kind of odd how the anime would jump through time periods, right? And this isn't necessarily a bad thing. This was just an observation that I don't see this as frequently in other anime, where you would have sometimes just a blip of a couple minutes from a day, and then you would know that another blip would come later, and that's a totally different day. It might even be a different week. And so it's like they're taking the cream off of, all of the different interactions between these characters.
Would you say it's like a slice of their life?
Yes, yes, I would.
That's literally what slice of life is. It's just like.
Oh,
Yeah.
Troy, can you explain that a little
Can I
more
explain
detail?
slice of life to you?
And then can you explain romance as well?
Yes, and comedy. And that to me, if I haven't made that clear in the past, I absolutely abhor slice of life, unless it has some other very strong genre overlapping with it, like very strong comedy or something like that. So yeah, this one is just, it's got a lot lacking for me to have a complete meal. So I got to give it a 2.
Okay, I think critically, I think it's 4. I think for a romantic comedy, heavy on the romance slice of life, I think it's very competently told. I think besides the 2 main characters, the rest of the cast is super weak. Is one of their shallower parts, but the 2 main characters have a lot of chemistry. They work well together. It's not what I'm looking for. If I don't usually seek out romantic stuff, but I don't mind it at all. Like these guys might. This isn't as good as Dress Up Darling, and it's not as interesting to me as Love is Hard for Otaku, which I think is a much more interesting part of a relationship. Mm-hmm. That figuring each other out and finding where you compromise, and he likes this and I like this and yada yada yada. That's still one of the best romance animes that we've watched. But like I said, I was always happy to put on the next episode. The cute moments were heartwarming. The Carte thing was cool. I wish they weren't 13. I had been assuming in my head they were 15. Maybe that was just to make myself feel better. 13 still feels a little bit young for all this heavy love they're falling into. But it definitely fit. I think this is a good anime for those who are looking for this genre. I'll give it that. So critically, I'm going to go with a 4. But I personally had a lot of fun seeing reflections of so long ago. I don't want to do the math. It was a very, very long time ago. It was kind of fun to be like, I was stupid. But also, there's a lot of sweetness, and I've had fun talking with my wife about again, sharing each other's viewpoints on how that all looked. By the way, when I gave her the present, she was ready to say yes, and she was so pissed off I didn't ask.
Her friends had probably told her already what you were going to do.
I asked her if she knew. She said she didn't know, but she said she was expecting it. And yeah, anyway, I had more fun with that than the actual anime.
Yeah.
Here. I don't even know if she still has those. She had them for a long time. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. My marriage is fine. All right.
Everywhere you go, you see like David Duchovny.
All right. If you have thoughts, next anime. Next anime is Nier Automata version 1.1a. That is the anime, not the video game. Just to be clear. Mm-hmm. If you have thoughts on Dangers in My Heart, we'd love to hear them, especially for those of you who are romantic fans. Please let us know how it fits for you, because obviously this is one of those ones we like to step out of our wheelhouse, but it is out of our wheelhouse, and we need to be fair with that. So if you really enjoy romantic, does this hold up? Does it not hit the highs of Dress Up Darling? So let us know on our Twitter at Baka Podcast, on our website, theanimebakaclub.com. You can have a contact us button, or leave a comment wherever you found the podcast, and it gets back to us. We thank you for listening, and with that, we need to say goodbye.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.
Sayonara.